There never is a slow time at the Disneyland Resort. As one door closes, others appear to be opening back up. Disney's vision of ToonTown is starting to become clear, even though we are days away from having to say goodbye. We have your complete listing of closures and refurbishments for those coming out to the resort, and downtown Disney is getting ripped apart. But it's not all bad, because the trams are coming back next week and Disney is moving to the desert. It's your Disneyland Weekly Update. It is a wild time at the Disneyland Resort. So much going on. Let me say, what's up, benches? Welcome to this week's update. There is a lot going on, a lot to be happy about, a lot to celebrate. Namely, masks are no longer required indoors for vaccinated guests, and that makes me about as happy as Bird on a spring day in front of Small World.
Greetings, fellow citizens of Disneyland. Bricky here at the edge of the new DVC Hotel construction site. There will be the fourth tower to become a part of the Disneyland Hotel. But what I'm most excited about this week for your weekly update is the fact that Disneyland is going to Palm Springs, one of my favorite places on earth. The first time I went there on vacation and visited, I immediately understood why Walt decided that would be the perfect location for the Disney family vacation home, their getaway to decompress from all the stress of running a studio and being one of the world's most ambitious dreamers. Now, Disney is coming to Palm Springs, and so is Update. Once a month, I'll be traveling out to Rancho Mirage in the Palm Springs area, giving you all of the updates on the new community that's being built, Cotina, as well as giving you a guide of things to do around Palm Springs and Rancho Mirage, because as Disney goes out to the desert, I'm assuming Disney fans will as well, and the fact that this will be an easy day trip for anybody that's flying into the Disneyland Resort to add a little bit more Disney magic onto their vacation. Update will be there to keep you in the loop on how to make the most of your Rancho Mirage Palm Springs Disney excursion, and I'm so excited for a new project to be emerging inside the world of Disney in Southern California. So this opens up a huge new chapter in the story of Disney, and for our update series where once a month I'll be taking you out to Cotina so that you can see all the progress that's happening in the Rancho Mirage area.
For those of you that are unaware, Disney announced a new project called Story Living, where the idea is they're going to build communities around America where you can go and live inside of a Disney story. Where I'm a little bit kind of not on board with this is that I think Disney creates great escapism, but trying to live inside of the escapism, well, I don't know if that's healthy. But nonetheless, I will celebrate Cotina because it's being built in Rancho Mirage, which is part of the Coachella Valley, right next to Palm Springs. This is a part of the world that I absolutely love and adore, and going out and experiencing new Disney is right up my alley. I love the design aesthetic that they have chosen. It matches with this entire community, which is one of the best designed communities that you will ever see. But before we get ahead of ourselves, there is so much to break down and so much to try to understand. For example, Disney's not actually building any of the buildings. They're not selling any of the properties. This is kind of a design gig for Disney Imagineering, which isn't a new thing for Disney. I mean, they did design that crazy building out at LAX and other projects that aren't inside of Disney properties. But there's a lot to break down, both on the business side, the design side, and I also think the ethics side. Living inside of a Disney written story, to me, seems too synthetic and artificial. I will go there and visit, but I'm not looking to live there. More to come on this subject. This is right up my alley in Disney storytelling.
Friends, I'm standing on one of my favorite spots of the entire resort, the tram path. And I'm standing in the cul-de-sac where the trams do their turn to drop guests off, to spin around and pick guests back up. Wednesday, as you know, the trams are returning, and right now I want to show you an exclusive sneak peek of a documentary that I'm dropping next Wednesday as the trams return to Disneyland. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you show up next Wednesday for a special live stream showing my first ride on the tram, as well as dropping this small documentary explaining why people are so excited that the Disneyland trams are coming back.
When Disneyland opened in 1955, it sat right across from its huge parking lot that was able to house over 12,000 cars for the day, and over time would eventually grow to 15,000 spaces. Instead of using slow to load and loud buses, to help guests get from their car to the gates of Disneyland. Disney legend Bob Gurr's alternative plan was to use small tractors to pull binge wagons that could be linked together like a small train. There were two original trams, one for the massive Disneyland parking lot and the other for the Disneyland Hotel, which for years was the only transportation from Disneyland to the Disneyland Hotel. That was until the monorail showed up, where guests could go to the park in style, thus making the Disneyland Hotel tram irrelevant. And the parking lot trams would stay long after the Disneyland Hotel trams would, but eventually the Disneyland parking lot trams would have to go away because something much larger than a hotel was getting ready to show up.
Friends, I hope you enjoyed that little sneak peek, and I hope that you show up next Wednesday when I do a fun live stream showing the trams coming back, documenting my first ride on the trams in over 2 years. As you may know, I have the record for riding the tram more than any other guest in an operational day, going over 100 laps in one day, riding from 7 a.m. to 1:30 in the morning. That's all I did, used the bathroom once. But I'm so excited the trams are coming back. I hope you enjoyed that sneak preview, and I hope you show back up next Wednesday to celebrate this. And you know what this means. With mask mandates being gone for vaccinated guests and the trams coming back, this much closer to being back to normal.
And really, we're seeing that more and more every day. We're trying to get everything in the world and in Disneyland back to normal. Disney will be open for a year coming April 30th. And it looks like a lot of things that were kind of in forgotten Disneyland are going to come back online by the year anniversary. But who would have thought it would take a year to try to get things back to where they were? All right, friends, we have a lot on the construction front this week. Today's video and all videos are always divided up in chapters, so skip around to the parts that mean the most to you. But if history and design matter to you, get ready for a deep dive on construction.
And would you look at that, just 1 week later on Update, you can see that they have now created that entry road that I have been tracking for the last couple of weeks, proving the idea correct that this will be the staging area where all the major equipment will be able to be driven in, major supplies will be able to be dropped off. So this area back here is going to be the entry point for the West End Downtown Disney construction project. So exciting to see this come together. And as you can see behind me, we have full-on demolition happening. There is now a hole punctured inside of the structure behind where the Starbucks used to be located. So on the furthest eastern point of this project, we can see now they have bashed in a hole. They're going inside. We're going to see these buildings come down in an efficient manner, and it would make sense that they're starting on the eastern side of the western project. I know that gets a little confusing, but it's the eastern side where the monorail runs by. Monorail closed down on Monday. It is scheduled to reopen on March 6th. So obviously they're going to work on the project here on the eastern side and work their way over, creating enough space to get the monorail back up and working while they work on the central and western end of this project.
So going back around to the other side of where I was just standing, you can see that they have ripped apart a little bit more of that front overhanging roof of the Starbucks facade. And going around to the back lot again, go away green tarps have been put up on the fencing, blocking a lot of our views. So we're gonna have to hope for some windy days so that we can see what's going on inside of there. I can look through the green and saw that they're ripping up the sidewalks or taking out gas lines. Moving back over to the front, over at AMC, you can see they've removed an entire section of this canopy here, right, of this atrium. They like just welded out one area. I almost wonder if it was, hey, let's take out a section and see how hard this is, because if that's how they're going to take this thing apart, this is going to be a huge chore. And here's an end of the day look at that hole that's been punctured in the back of downtown Disney. Let's move over to ToonTown because we've been giving more information on what Disney's expectations for ToonTown are, what's staying and what's going away. And friends, I've gotten it totally backwards, but we'll get to that in a minute. Let's look at some construction while we can still be inside of the land. Last call is at the end of the day, March 8th. The land locks up on the 9th for over a year. We can see these gentlemen here hanging some tiles up on the roof. But this is going to be what our view is going to be for the next year. Where we were just looking a second ago, this is that look from the top of the Mickey and Friends parking structure. But I did some monkeying around, some climbing around, and I found a couple of spots where we can watch some of the progress take place. So we'll be able to see the rolling hills come together as well as the exterior skyline. So this is going right back to where we just were. But let's bounce back over to the parking structure where you can see this other view we have where we're looking down a service road that is backstage. But over to the right, you can see the current rolling hills that are behind Mickey's house. And over to the left, you can see where the new backdrop is being built. And there will still be this space between the two, which is going to be interesting to see how much this stuff protrudes out to give that level of stacking. But yeah, it's a long shot. Here we see a construction worker who is putting mortar on the back of this tile, and then in a moment we will see them take that tile and push it over to the wall. So this was the waffle wall, then it was the steel wall with the yellow pieces on it. Now it got coated over to the blue material. Now they're putting these white pads on it. Like, there is a lot of space between the actual show building wall to that facade that's going to get hung. Let's step back over to the garage. I'm just doing this so you'll get an idea in the future of exactly what we're looking at, because I know that it is pretty far away, but I cannot turn my back on this project. I am so curious to see how all this comes together. The downside is we won't be able to see what's happening down on the ground level. We won't be able to get views of Walt's tree, the wishing tree, being brought to life. As I said in last week's update, episode 13, that you could tell that they hang right angle bars, and then they were protruding out of that the shape of buildings and other things that would be on this backdrop to come. And as you see, that tile work is precisely going by what I said. You see those beams that are at the angles that look like the silhouettes of buildings. Those are being ignored, therefore showing the space differential, so there'll be a natural shadow between the buildings and the background. So all right, that red beam right there, you can see that over on the left of your screen next to that spire. So we are going to be able to see them put together the El Capitan front facade. Thank you, Scary Gary, for correcting me last week. So not only will we be able to see them put together the rolling hilltops and whatever sort of outer skyline there is, but we'll be able to see them put together the top of the El Capitan Theater as well. So it's not all lost. Between what I can get us from the Mickey and Friends parking structure, as well as images that Disney will leak along the way, we'll have an idea of what's happening before we get back in there in 2023. All right, friends, this is our before shots. I've already shot some other footage inside of ToonTown, but these are more of our before shots because we know the Jolly Trolley for sure is going to have to come out. I mean, why would they keep this dead relic in there? We've already shot the train house where the Jolly Trolley carts go back to. So we're getting some before shots so that when we get back in there in a year, we can see how everything has changed. Well, this week, Disney announced that they are reimagining the usage of Goofy's house, Donald's boat, as well as Gadget's Go Coaster. They also went out of their way to say that Roger Rabbit would be returning. And I'm so shocked because I had it backwards. Does anybody know what this sandwich is from? Yeah, there you go. What a callback from America on Parade. But the reimagining of this area over here, it does make sense because the park, the wishing tree, the more green space, a different way of designing ToonTown, a lot of that would make sense as the concept art we've seen shows new paths, Walt's wishing tree. So this whole area over here is going to be reimagined, which surprises me because it feels like Roger Rabbit and where the company's going with their narratives. I know they put a trench coat on Jessica, but I mean, it just feels problematic for where they are trying to go. But hey, who knows? So let's look at some of this amazing before footage that we will be looking at a year from now and measuring what all got changed. And I think that this area often is overlooked by adults because there's not a lot of attractions for us back here. But as far as a design aesthetic, the way that they made everything feel both real but also cartoony, the way that there's a swell in the design of everything, like things are similar to our world but have that swell or have that contour that sort of blows them out a little bit, where things taper. They start off little, they get fat in the middle, and they taper back. It creates that cartoon illusion. Just look at the wood right on the fencing around us, or the rocks, the way that everything is built. It has just a little bit of a bend to it, which makes it feel way more animated, more from the cartoon world than from our world. And they packed a lot in this small little land. And I'm going to point out something right now. Disney has announced 3 sort of interesting projects. They've announced the redesign of ToonTown, that was first. Then they talked about the redesign of the western end of downtown Disney, that was second. And then this week they announced the idea of Story Living and the project they're doing out in Cotina. All 3 of these projects have one major thing in common. They all really rely on creating big natural green spaces or park spaces. Cotina has that massive lagoon. ToonTown is going to have a different way for kids to walk around in the wishing tree and a more organic path system. And downtown Disney is getting that huge grassy area and an entertainment space. They also a while back announced Disneyland Forward, and I believe all of these projects are flirting with the city of Anaheim and the residents of Anaheim to gain their trust that they have a new vision, a new beat on design, and I kind of feel like all of these projects tie into the vision of whatever the future of the Disneyland Resort is. But I'm so happy that they gave us this heads up, that we're able to go in and capture this footage and other footage that I have, so when the land does open back up, we can track all of the changes and realize what exactly is new and what went away to Yesterland. But man, oh man, does Disney always keep you guessing, because if you had to give me an idea of which ride will they redo, Gadgets or Roger Rabbit, I would have put all the money on Roger Rabbit. But look how fun this is for little ones, and I always love how the adults really oversell the roller coaster experience for their little passengers sitting next to them. So yeah, it's about time to say goodbye. You have till the end of the day, March 8th, to get out there. And I'm headed out to Walt Disney World to do the Star Wars Hotel, so my last date is even sooner than yours. But hopefully this footage helped out. If you live someplace where coming out just to see ToonTown one last time just doesn't actually make any sense, I hope you enjoyed one of these last looks, and I will promise you, I've been documenting from every angle. Goofy's freeze time. Goofy, you're going to have a lot of free time when you don't have a home anymore. But yes, Mickey's ToonTown is closing up. A lot of things are going to change, and we'll be watching it from far away at top of the parking structure. And speaking of parking structure, I saw this when I was exiting it. There's a bizarre little project that's popping up in one of the parking lots here, and you could see that there's different trailers and pieces. So I thought, well, maybe this is just equipment that they're dropping off for other projects. So I didn't really pay too much attention, but I decided to shoot it because this is a very odd little part of downtown Disney. But then I noticed that they were building this structure, and the bottom part of it you can't see because there was a wrought iron fence that I was shooting, and they kind of get weird filming in this area. So I'm not sure what that's all about. And then here we have a little bit of what's going on with the new DVC tower. Not a lot going on this week. I'm not going to beat this one into the ground. Hopefully soon it'll go vertical and we'll get to show you a lot more of what's happening with this new DVC tower at the Disneyland Hotel. Right, that's your construction update. Let's walk around the resort and look at some new things that I found. Something that I absolutely love are these high top tables that were put right next to the Fantasy Faire construction project. If it's not too noisy, what a view of the hub. And then over at Boardwalk Pizza and Pasta, Update was able to spot that inside there were cast members training. And I've been wanting this restaurant to come back because sometimes I'm like, I could really go for a slice. Moving over to Hollywoodland, as you remember last week, that box came down that was at the corner of Sunset and Hollywood, revealing that there was a new sidewalk. Thank you to the sidewalk gang that hung out to the end. But now there's 2 more of these boxes, which I'm assuming is more sidewalk work. But my question is, why do them right across from each other at the same time? Because there's this bizarre part of the human psyche where they go, oh, this is narrow, let's stop and hang out here. Look at the different groups of people that decided the most narrow passage was the best spot to go, hey, what y'all want to do next? Y'all want to get something to eat? Y'all want to go ride a ride? Another new project over on Main Street is the China Closet is getting a little bit of a refurb. Right now, we can't really see too much is going on, but I'm assuming this is going to be a detail and paint job. And as I was looking around, I thought, man, the Disneyland News, what an epic thing. They used to have their own daily publication that they would let kids sell for like $0.25 in the parking lot. If I ever get a window on Main Street, I want mine next to the Disneyland News. Moved over to the Plaza Point Holiday Shop, which got my first signs of Easter. They have this little holiday section here. This seems to be the part of the store that was designed to turn over to the different holidays. So yeah, love me some Fabergé eggs. The only thing I love more than Disneyland is Fabergé eggs. Currently have a collection of 1,313. And then look at this. Beauty and the Beast, huh? Look at Chip up there hanging out. So it is interesting to see the Plaza Point Holiday Shop react to the different holidays. And the emotional whirlwind is back, and I have to say the balloons or the memories that are above the little carts that we get to go around in, the buckets, the finishing on those things is just so Chef Goofy's kiss. All right, Project Tracker. These are some projects that we've been tracking. Let's go back over to Main Street. Now, last week I ran out of time to show you this footage, but don't worry. Even if I don't show it to you, I'm always gathering it and holding on to it for a week when it fits into the schedule. Try to keep these around 30 minutes. All right, let's zoom into a week ago, and you can see that they are taping up the windows, which means that a paint job's getting ready to happen. But as I looked around, look in the Crystal Arcade. You can see that there is like a part of the facade is just missing there. Like there's a hole. We're looking right into the Crystal Arcade, and you can see the studs in there. And it really does show that these buildings are, they're pretty old at this point, over 60 something years old. That front facade is, and it was built over at the Disneyland Opera House when it was the original mill. So let's look around. You can see that they have the window all taped up there, getting ready to do a pretty detailed paint job, which if you would have asked me, hey, does the Crystal Arcade need to be repainted? I'd be like, no, it looks great. But I do love the eye for detail of Disneyland and the pristine manner that it's always kept in. So looking around last week, you could see that they were getting ready to do some painting. Now up there on your right, or dead center, I guess, you'll see that column that is really looking pretty thrash. That's what was removed from the left side of the structure. There's one of those on each side that makes it look like it's holding up the little bit of overhang that the roof has. And you can see that it was missing on the left, but now you will see of this week that it's also missing over on the right. And you can also see that all that taping was a good idea because they have completely blasted all of the lettering in there with that sort of cranberry red. So there you go. You can see that not only did they take out that column, but it looks like they replaced a lot of the lumber inside of the wall. This one still looks to have some of the old lumber, but you can see some new pieces that have been put in there. And then there you go. Look at that massive amount of taping off so that when they spray with that sort of cranberry red, they're going to get the pieces that they need and keep everything else safe, because there's the lights in there and the metal and just stuff that you would not want to get any paint on. So really fascinating to see how much prep work goes into one of those singular projects. Moving back over to the Fantasy Fair, last week I told you all about the cool banners, the shields that are hanging outside and how they historically play into Fantasyland's past. But now let's look at this actual project, because the scrims came back down due to high winds on the day that I was there. But you can see they have the entire canopy taking off the top of the theater. So you can actually see the framework that holds up that beautiful, like velvety looking purple, like really rich, purple was a sign of wealth back in castle times. So you can see that they've got it completely taken down. There's those high tops that I showed you earlier where you can sit and overlook the hub and catch some nice vibes. Coming back on the other side of the creek there, you can see the ironwork that goes around the edge with those nice Victorian twirls, but you can see they've got this thing completely taken off. So I'll be curious, was it staining and it needed a clean? Are they going to change the colors on it? Really, really interested to see what becomes of the Fantasy Fair rooftop, because it was gorgeous before, which means it'll probably be just as beautiful when it comes back. Let's move over to the World of Color Lagoon and check out that we have our projectors back. And I'm going to call this something like Pirates of the Caribbean Perception Disease, where you ride Pirates of the Caribbean, you go, I swear to God, that's never been there. I swear to you, I've rode this 500 times. That's a new animatronic they put in. And then you go back and look at old footage and you're like, yeah, it was there the first time I rode Pirates. I thought that these projectors looked huge because I haven't been there for a long time. What do you think it would cost me to rent that and live inside of that? I could live there. A little boat over to the shore. I know that I made fun of Cotina, but I mean, this is actually inside of the park. But I could have swore to you, oh my Lord, these are so much bigger than the ones we had before, which means the projection show is going to be 8K and it's going to be a better World of Color than ever. These are the biggest projectors. I mean, my Lord, they're 5 times the size of what they used to be. And it turns out that they're the same size. Yes, they are the same size they were before, but going back to my footage on the opening day of Touch of Disney, what an event that was. You can see that they're pretty much the same. Same shape, they just don't have those little gold decorative tips on them yet. But if we come back to today, you can see it's pretty much the same thing. I just think that the roofing pattern is a little bit more on brand with what they've done over at Midway Mania, which is actually a beautiful facade. But yeah, the projectors are back, which is looking really good for World of Color coming back. And we desperately need nighttime shows to return to Disneyland. We know that they're working on Fantasmic over in the Rivers of America, and you can't have one show, you need to have both, because then the parks become uneven. Everybody rushes over to one to see that show, and then the other park sort of has all the weight and one park doesn't. You could see there that it looked like they were maybe putting in another one of those projectors. But once this job is completely done and we know that World of Color is coming back online, see there, you can see the area where they're probably mounting one last one. Once this is all completed, I will take you back through the very beginning of this, showing you weeks of footage and kind of giving you an idea of what exactly happened, what they did, and where is this beautiful nighttime show headed. All right, very, very quick events update. We had ESPN here last week. We had Valentine's Day After Dark events. We still have Soulfully going on. Here we can see one of the chalk artists. That this woman is phenomenal. I talk to her every single week. Such an amazing person. And I always say, can I film you? And she said, yeah, just film my good side. She doesn't want me filming her from the backside. She's funny, and we've had some great conversations, but you can see she has her reference artwork out where she's taking those hands from a different photo, but using those as reference for her chalk illustration. We're going to see the Fantasyland Theater come back to life this weekend for Celebrate Gospel. That will be there this weekend and next weekend. I believe the performances start at 3 o'clock on Saturday and Sunday, both of these weekends. But yeah, even if this isn't your event, you gotta be pumped that they're back to doing things in the Fantasyland Theater, which is just another inch back towards normalcy of things being the way they once were. And we can see that Lunar New Year? What Lunar New Year? Get out of here. Scram, go on. It's regular year time now. But we can see Lunar New Year, that door closes, but Food and Wine Festival, that gets ready to kick off March 4th. All right, it is time for your weekly refurbishments. This is everything for the rest of the month of February. Splash Mountain will be down for the rest of the month. Just its annual maintenance. Nothing going on with the Princess and the Frog retheming that will be happening in the next couple of years, I'm assuming. Sailing Ship Columbia is down for the rest of the month. We don't have a reopening date. This is another project that is down due to Fantasmic coming back online, getting the boat ready. And then we also have the Disneyland Monorail, as I said earlier, that's supposed to reopen on March 6th. So no monorail up. Did you see that? It fell right down in front of me. And then the Mark Twain, another Fantasmic related closure. But we can also see that the girl's getting some pretty work done to her, and it's unneeded because she's always beautiful to me. And we have 4 refurbishments that we know of so far for the month of March, which means Matterhorn will be down for just about a week. This one always needs a little bit of maintenance because it's old and it's first in its class. We also know that Indiana Jones will be down for just a few days. Nothing too big. Just hope that those 3 days aren't when you and your loved ones are coming back out to the resort for the first time in a year. And then also another one that we don't know a lot about, Pirates of the Caribbean, is going down on March 14th, and it's going to be down for a while, which is good because it's been looking like it could use a little bit of extensive TLC. And then Little Mermaid is going back down oddly. It was just down when we were doing these at the beginning of the year. It's going back down again. I heard a rumor that they gave her feet and the feet aren't working right, but we'll see what happens with all of that. And Gadget's Go Coaster, as well as Roger Rabbit, each closing at the end of the day, March 8th. They'll be gone for over a year. So those are all your refurbishments. Make sure you always look at the schedule before you come out to the resort. And some say there used to be a submarine here that would go down below water as well as a tree house where a man could climb up into the sky and get a beautiful view of Disneyland. But that's just some people that say that. And good news for the month of March, soaring over California is coming back. The superior version of this attraction is finally coming back to California. So if, like me, you like to soar over the great state of California and get all those good feels about where you live and where your family's at, then you'll be Yes, Jared, I know that you're going to be a part of the food festival that's happening March 4th. Anyways, soaring over California. Yes, Jared, I told him you're going to be at the fest. Jared, I told him about food and wine. I told him you're going to be here. What more do you want from me? Jared's going to be at the festival. He'll have some new merch. Man, this guy. Yes, Jared. Jared's got me so upset, I'm going to let my friend finish the rest of today's update. Ladies and gentlemen, Bruce Brickstein. You know, friends, the old Eureka Sawmill out on the edge of San Francisco Street. It was a great place where a lot of fine people would work at the Gold and Timber Company. But the old mill's been shut down, and the water's no longer running, and the grizzlies are no longer to be found at the old peak. It's things like this that make me sad when you see good old attractions not come back. Well, they can take down the old sawmill. They can take down all the things we find. But the one thing that they'll never take are the good memories inside of mine. You can take down the old Eureka, take down the gold.